My name is Catherine, and I'm with Harris County Precinct 4 Encore. Thank you for joining us on another Encore excursion. Today, we're at the National United States Armed Forces Museum of Texas, and we are here to expand our knowledge about the men and women in the armed forces.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Ed Farris. I'm the president here at the National United States Armed Forces Museum here in Houston, Texas. I'm the president of the museum and a veteran. First joined the United States Marine Corps back in 1980 and served for over 17 years in and out of the military after that in the reserves and the Guard. Appreciate y'all coming out this morning. I hope you enjoy the film. The National United States Armed Forces Museum originally opened back in 1992. The museum itself was named the Military Museum of Texas before we went to a name change, which was back in 2010. The original organizers of the museum was a Mr. Pete Berlin. He was a World War II veteran and also made the D-Day landings. Mr. C.J. Harper, who was a United States Army veteran and also served here as a law enforcement here in Harris County. The third organizer of the museum was Mr. Charles Sumner, who is still the vice president of the museum today. The museum acquisitions actually are either donated or purchased from the United States government. For a lot of the vehicles and equipment that are donated, they come from ordinary citizens, sometimes companies that no longer have a use for the equipment, family members of veterans who just don't want their loved ones' uniforms and memorabilia just to be thrown away. They donate it here to the museum so it can be properly displayed and given its right place for the memorabilia to be preserved. As far as the equipment is concerned, like some of the equipment you see around here now, the ones we get from the U.S. government we actually have to pay for, and majority of the time the vehicles and equipment are in a state of disrepair because the U.S. military no longer uses it. So we have to go through a restoration process here at the museum where all these vehicles like you see behind me have been restored over the past few years and actually are back in their operational condition. So we take these vehicles out to different displays, veterans events, parades, 4th of July, and actually display them to the public, because other than that, they wouldn't have any other way to actually see these vehicles and artifacts unless they come to the museum or they see them on TV somewhere. So we take great pride in actually preserving our military history, the memories of our loved ones who served in the military and their sacrifices that they've made throughout the years. One of the unique operations with the National United States Armed Forces Museum, actually, no other museum in the country gives back to the community in the ways that we do. 95% of our equipment we restore back in operational condition. And in addition to that, we give back to the community by assisting during natural disasters. It's been over 20 years that we've been doing this, going back to some of the most well-known tropical storms, hurricanes Harvey, Rita, Katrina. We've actually put some of our vehicles out to do rescues and deliver food and water to Houstonians and neighboring counties as far out as Beaumont. So we've been doing this for a number of years. It's not our primary focus here at the museum. Like I said, we preserve our military history, but a part of that military history is actually helping the communities, giving back to our community, and we saw that as a mission here at the museum also. So the equipment we do have, we know its capabilities, and we put it to good use. Just because it's no longer needed by the U.S. military doesn't mean that it's not functional. Okay, as far as restorations and maintenance of the vehicles, most of the vehicles that we have come in are in a state of disrepair, not functioning at all, or severely damaged. We have the benefit of having a lot of members here at the museum that actually worked on these vehicles while they were in the military, and or if they were in civilian, they were working in the civilian world, may have been maintaining equipment that has all aided us in our ability to restore these vehicles here at the museum. So once we get them in, we actually strip them down, do a restoration process, repaint, take off any damaged items or items that don't work. As far as the mechanical aspects of the vehicles themselves, most of the time, the vast majority of the maintenance required, just in regular service, we go to an auto parts store. If you need belts, filters, anything like that, most of those common items, fuel pumps, you can still find just by going to an auto parts store. Now, for the vehicle-specific items that were only designed and built for that particular vehicle or armored vehicle, we actually have to go back to the military or go to surplus salvage companies to see if they have it. So it takes a lot of time. A lot of these vehicles, the restoration process may take a year. Sometimes we're lucky and we'll be through in a couple of months. So it just depends on the item, and it actually depends on how much damage is to the vehicle itself. Will determine how long it will take us to restore it. And there's a long waiting line because we have over 200 and some odd vehicles and pieces of equipment here at the museum.
My name is Raymond Marino. I'm a member on the staff of the National United States Armed Forces Museum of Texas. Okay, this is a World War II Jeep. This happened to be made by Ford, not Wheelies, but as you can see, the original one over here of the Wheelies, a lot of the women were on the assembly lines where men were working in the war. These grills here are hand welded, and a lot of the women did that. Then stamping technology came into play, and all the parts you see here are stamp production, okay? They come on a sheet of metal and with stamp and you have this grill made, okay? Ford and Wheelies had the contract, and one thing that the ladies came up with was a code for the tires, and it worked pretty good. A modern day car today, when you change a tire, and I tell this to all the patrons that come here, is you change it differently from a car that you have in the modern world versus what you had back then. Code was called lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, and that meant that the lug nuts on here, one side was lefty-loosey, righty-tighty, and the other side was righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. The reason why is when the enemy captured it and used it, they had a flat tire, they would render the Jeep useless because they break the lug. Like today's cars, it's all the same. Lefty-loosey to unloosen it, righty-tighty to tighten it. So it was a code called lefty-loosey, righty-tighty. And the girls came up with that at the assembly line, just to fool the enemy when they captured the Jeep. So you had to remember when you change a tire, the lugs are switched over on the sequence of changing them. Okay, this is known as a mutt. This is used in Vietnam. This is what I call the grandfather of the dune buggy era during the Beach Boys. Okay, and then you saw all kinds of vehicles since then. As you can see here, this is dropped by helicopter, or it can be, it goes in the swamps of the Vietnam era and the jungle. But one thing a lot of people have asked me, why is the steering wheel crooked? Okay, and this is another one of these little tidbits I tell them, besides the actual use of it, is to keep the men driving these. You're never going to be on a level surface. You're in the jungle, you're in the terrain and everything else, so you didn't get that fatigue factor. So they wanted the fatigue factor to be lessened. You already got used to being off-centered, and it worked mentally and physically, and this was a very popular idea. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have one of our few assets here, a real tank, and it really runs. It doesn't shoot a real round. It could shoot a blank round for Hollywood effect. Other than that, it doesn't shoot a real round. This is an M60 tank used in Vietnam era, and it was also named a patent tank, the last named patent tanks since the Sherman tanks and things like this. And so she last served in Germany. That's why you have those camouflage dark colors on it, because that's where she last served. We had her running around here. We had her downtown running around. So it's a unique piece that we have, and we like to get some Shermans one day, but we're doing the best we can for the procurements and try to get stuff. We don't like to collect a material that would be so hard to restore it's not worth it, okay, because we're all volunteers here, okay? We spend what we can, and we do what we can with the parts we get, and it works out, but we have to be selective in a lot of ways. Okay, we have, like the aviation is, we're getting hopefully 3 more choppers, so be okay. Some of these have the armaments on. They fly. The reason why we do this, if we had a problem in, say, Houston, this is just a theory. If we had a problem, they needed to use this, they could actually rearm this and put the stuff on here and go away. The definition of a museum, folks, is that it's old stuff that doesn't fly or work. We have things here that work and fly. Okay, so just let you know. We still need parts and things like this, but this is what we had. Now, food. We're getting into food. This is the Vietnam era. Vietnam veteran had a cuisine that consisted of World War II, Korea, and Vietnam K-rashes. The leftover stuff was still in abundance. They were eating stuff from past wars. Well, they got the cushions and they got all kinds of stuff on here. Now they got rid of the buttons and zippers, and they now have one more thing to do. But when you go on house-to-house search, Velcro is going to be the next series. And this is what they have here. This is the newer uniforms. They have buttons everywhere. This still has the zipper on it. These are the World War II uniforms, and this is 1960s, early 60s, late 50s. This is my collection. I gave them to them.
Thank you for joining us on another Encore excursion. We look forward to seeing you at our next exciting destination.